Wow, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dreamers Live podcast. It has been a minute.
It's been a couple of minutes.
Let me just start by saying welcome back. This is Dreamers Live. We talk about a lot of different stuff. This is episode 10010, and we are calling this episode, And Now What? So I just thought about that, if you just are scrolling and you see the And Now What?
Yes.
You can put that emphasis on a lot of different places. You can say, and now what?
Okay.
Or, and now what? Or just hit it hard on the end.
Yeah.
And now what? So I guess you can apply whatever attitude you want to be in there.
I like it.
I'm keeping it straight. I'm just saying, and now what?
I like it. I like the options.
So it has been a minute since we've been together, and we're grateful to be back. We did not intend to take a summer hiatus. It's just that the schedule demanded. What have you been doing for your summer break since the last time we did a podcast?
Well, you were with me.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. So
By the way, again, this is my co-conspirator and wife, Jeanette. I'm Jay Webster, and we're so thrilled to have you back here. And yeah, so we also have a 12-year-old daughter who's crashing into 13.
Yes,
and she is responsible in large part for why we have not had a podcast in a couple weeks.
It's the summer musical theater season.
Yes.
And she is usually part of a big production in our hometown, which is an amazing opportunity, but it requires a whole lot of volunteer work from the parents.
Right.
So between our bill-paying work, it being a busy season,
yes,
and then that, and then a vacation, which was fun.
So it's been
busy.
So on the musical, that's about 5 or 6 weeks of rehearsals for our daughter. Mm-hmm. But then you and I are part of the backstage crew, and that was, I counted, it was 9 days straight at the center on the main stage doing rehearsals and then performances and all that.
Mm-hmm. And being done some nights as late as 11.
Gosh.
So really
and
fun, but really
lights,
long.
And there was a live orchestra,
yes,
and there were mice and horses.
It was amazing.
Standing ovations, and that was just for you.
Yeah, I was down in the makeup dungeon.
Yeah.
Helping my friends make everyone look
so
very
then we
festive.
Finished with the main stage deal, and we turned around and left for our kind of town, Chicago. What did you do in Chicago?
Chicago is so much fun. I think it's like the second we land, you can feel the energy of the city.
Right.
There's something about, I think, all the opportunities and all the things you can see and the different types of people and food and experiences that just really kind of reinvigorate us. So we did all sorts of things this time. Let's see, we went to, our daughter had never been to Chinatown.
Right.
And we had been, but it had been a long time ago. So we went into Chinatown. There's an old China, or like just Chinatown. And then there's new Chinatown.
The new old Chinatown. Yeah, and what we discovered is that new old Chinatown actually doesn't open until like noon. So we got to Chinatown early, like 10:30.
Now, old regular Chinatown was open.
Yeah,
but the new Chinatown, which is kind of like a strip mall. I actually thought old Chinatown was cooler. Yeah. But they kind of made it easy for the tourists. And like, here's new Chinatown. It's all in this one strip mall.
Right.
And so we had some very expensive egg rolls. And we surfed through and some cool ceramics and different. Anyway, it was a neat experience. I enjoyed it, and Evangeline thought that was really cool. And then let's see, what did we do the next day? We went to
the taping and recording of Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Yes, our friend Bill Curtis, who's always so kind to us, got us tickets for a live taping at the Studebaker Theater, which is really close to Millennium Park.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see him in action. That's an NPR radio show, and that was really neat to see the production process and to get to see Bill and some of the other stars that were on the show. So that was really cool.
And I love baseball and Cubs baseball, so we took in a couple games. Your parents met us on the interior 3 days, and I, don't think they would mind saying it is no easy task to get your in-laws through the city of Chicago, back and forth and
yes,
up and
it
down,
is a lot of transportation.
A whole lot of walking and
yes, there's taxis / Ubers and the L and all sorts of things. But it was really fun. Evangeline and my dad had never got to experience a Cubs game at the same time, and so we all went and did that. And then we took my mom to the Drake Hotel for the fancy high tea, and did some back to school shopping.
Yeah.
And then we went on an architectural boat cruise. I mean, normally when we go to Chicago, sometimes we're doing a bit of work and we're kind of experiencing things, but this was like the all tourist, all the time trip, taking my parents, and it was fun. We were tired
we
when
also
we got done.
To experience what it is to try and put 5 people in a cab at a time, and not all cabbies were a part of that. They did not. Some just said no. I don't want you riding this. So I had to ride in the front seat several times.
Yeah,
that's a whole adventure into itself.
Yeah, Evangeline sat on my lap. It's probably the last time ever that she'll want to sit on my lap.
And then she came back and was in mourning, wearing black and sackcloth for about 3 days.
Yeah, it is sad. We go through Chicago with draws. I mean, we're tired and we're certainly broke when we leave. But
I think of it like a wave. Like when you land into a city like Chicago, this wave of energy comes in and on you, and you get caught up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is
intoxicating.
Amazing. And then before you leave, that wave goes back in the ocean and it takes with it all your energy, and in our case, all our energy and folding cash.
Yes.
And so it just leaves you. And by the time you get on the plane, you're just like...
Yes, and your bank account also breathes a sigh of relief.
Wow.
No, it was really great, and then we've just been we're gearing up for back to school, so it's been a busy season. Summer's funny. I was thinking about it. It's there were parts of it I really enjoyed this year. It's kind of like the best of times and the worst of times.
Yes.
Like everyone's off their schedule. It's kind of crazy. We're trying to work while we have our daughter, and she likes to stay busy and starts doing these big projects. So that part is a little chaotic. But then I also enjoyed, just a little easier morning routine. Yeah. Some time we got to spend in the afternoon by the pool and just hanging out, and it's been sweet. We saw 3 movies this summer. We never do that.
It is a tug of war now, so we're just days away from 7th grade. And
oh man, 7th grade was one of the worst years of my life.
Don't tell your daughter that.
I have not, because she likes it.
Yeah, she's excited.
It was funny because
she's living a very different school life than you.
She is. My sister and I were just talking about it. I said, can you believe Evangeline's going into 7th grade? And she goes, whew, 7th grade was one of the worst years of my life. And I told her, I said, it was the worst year of my life.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, I was so insecure about everything that I wore a blue windbreaker jacket over most of my outfits, really for no reason.
Well, it went with everything.
But it didn't.
Well, it covered everything.
I had not discovered the beauty of black yet. So anyway.
That's funny.
But yeah, she's loving it, and she's excited, and she likes to be busy and be involved in things. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah. So, and there's this big tug of war between wanting the last fleeting moments of summer, and then also this desire to get back in with your besties.
Yes, the besties.
In schools and get to the schedule. And she's weird because she likes a lot of her classes. And so she's excited about doing all that stuff. And so anyway, that's where we've been. So anyway, we're so fortunate because of what we get to do with Dreamers, and especially the Dreamers Live events, which we've also been on a summer vacation from. And in so many ways, we are like a bridge for a lot of people because you and I happen to be, I think, pretty independent thinkers, and we try to push that way, and we are a bridge for a lot of people in kind of forming this community element. So we bring a lot of people together.
That's true. From different walks of life.
And a lot of people know our value is about community over a lot of other issues, and so they trust us a lot, and so we're involved in a lot of conversations, and it's just funny to me because on any given day we will be with people who are very conservative and other people who are very liberal, and both people trust us, and we are able to have intelligent conversations with both, and a lot of those people would assume that we are part of their party.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
we're not two-faced about stuff, but we're good
we
listeners.
see both sides of it, I feel like.
We do. We really try to be, and we just happen to be independent. So I think that's really been helpful with Dreamers, and so people can feel safe in that environment.
Sure.
And so we're just coming off of this 7 days where, for whatever reason, I've been engaged in a lot of these conversations, and I'm just fatigued. I'm just tired because of the weight of the conversations that people are bringing in that.
Well, it's an election year.
Oh my gosh. And it's kind of heightened in a little bit. I think it was kind of quiet, and now that, we've gone through all this nominating process and all that kind of stuff.
And the Olympics and sort of a world focus.
Conversations will start off normal, and then somehow they delve into just weird.
You can feel what it's going to take too. You're just like, "How's your summer? Pretty great."
And the conversations become a lot of one-sided and with one-word responses. Oh, yeah, right. Oh,
and that's, I can see how you. Okay, I can see how you could think that.
So, in the midst of all this, and this is not a political podcast. We don't do that,
because that sounds bad.
No, it's not. I guess what has remained, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, is that if there's a concern, it's this thing that we've said before, which is both sides, which we are really well acquainted with both sides are equally convinced they are right and also equally freaked out about the other side and if the other side should win the election in November.
Right.
So they're, and I think that's the reality of it. It's kind of like both sides, both friend groups, both parties are just as scared of the other person's America as they are of theirs. And so that puts us in this weird place. And in these conversations, I guess what was a little disheartening was to see that divide, to see that thing, and then think, okay, and now what?
Yeah.
So now that we have that, now that we know that, now that there is this thing, and people are taking in their own news and their own information and stuff.
Sure.
It's now what? So I'm still convinced, I still feel like, like we talked about in the last podcast about this outrage fatigue. I still feel that with people. It's so funny because I have friends who are actually on, I guess, the county boards for their political parties.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the Washington County Republican Party and the Washington County Democratic Party. And so I've had conversations with both of them. And so after they give me the sell speech, which is big and dramatic and all that stuff, and it kind of quiets down, then they will say, I just wish it was over. I'm just tired of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so here are the people that are, quote, supposed to be the leaders of that in this community, and they're saying,
they're exhausted by it.
I'm tired.
Sure.
I'm tired of this. As we would say, it's the outrage fatigue. So even though the conversation is bubbling over a lot, even though people are manning their post and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, the reality is most people really are tired of it. And so it leads me into this place of saying, okay, and now what?
And now what? Now what do we do? Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking you.
Seriously?
Yeah, I just thought you might have an answer.
Well, I think you and I approach it a little bit differently. We were talking about that this morning. And I, in no way, am being sexist to my own gender by saying this, but I really, there are certain seasons in your life where you feel like you have more time. Okay, like being in college is a good example, right? You have classes, but you have more free time than you're accustomed to in high school, and therefore that leads to thinking. I mean, at least for us. For some, it leads to drinking. Some, it leads to thinking.
It leads to drinking and thinking.
That's right, which is my favorite, really. But in college, we were the good kids. But anyway, there was more time really to think and philosophize, and there have been other stages of my life where that has been, I think, more important to me. But at this stage of my life where, we're running a company, we have Dreamers, which we're hoping soon it will become nonprofit, so we're working through that. And then we have a kid at home, and we're very invested in her life and trying to make her childhood a good experience. So the truth is, I don't have a lot of time to spend on that.
Right.
And so also, it's not even a matter of time. And I talk to a lot of women, I think, that are moms or busy. I feel like there's so many things that we're often juggling.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we're not thinkers or intelligent. It's sort of like you only have so much headspace.
Right.
And you only have so many waves. And so I really don't have a big enough capacity really to hold too much of that in.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm informed enough and aware, and you're good to help me with that. And I, of course, read some. And so it's easier for me, I think, to push it out.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's so stressful and so sad to see people so divided that I can't really dwell with it too much.
Right.
And so for me, I don't really know what, now what, except for I'm going to try to keep doing the little bit of good for us. We try to focus a lot of times on the local community and what we can do to help my friends and the people in my life and those in my community.
Yeah.
So what can we do? And I'm not going to lie, I try to avoid the conversations.
Oh, I know. So to me,
I
think two things come from what you're saying, which are both really, really important. And I think that one, this thing is it's not just in politics. I mean, the same thing comes in a struggle that we have sometimes with siblings. So we can, one sibling, my extended family, there's a conflict, and some family members are cross with other family members.
Oh,
and
okay.
But both equally believe they are right.
Right, like
Both,
your aunts and uncles, like in kind of extended. Okay.
Yeah, so both believe
they're
they are
equally convinced.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And equally convinced that the other person is wrong, and
it's like the other day I got on my Facebook feed for a minute, and it was just a little meme that said, if the election goes wrong in November, I'm moving to Canada. Everyone always says that. And then I wanted to be like, wrong which way?
Yeah, right.
Who are you talking about?
Yes.
And so I had to look at which friend that was and think, and probably right underneath it was somebody else saying, if the election goes wrong, I'm out of here. The world's never going to be like, never going to be the same again. And people are equally convinced of that on their side.
And they're equally convinced of that from the standpoint of familial relationships. I was thinking about that even from the standpoint of religiosity. We have a lot of friends who are, especially living in America, and especially living in the Bible Belt of America.
Right. The belt buckle
of that Bible Belt. So we have a lot of people who come from the Christian tradition, and we have a lot of people who are atheist and agnostic or Unitarian or whatever. And between those two groups, both are equally convinced that the other is wrong.
Yeah.
Both are equally convinced that the other is antagonistic.
Yes.
Both are equally
and can probably find the scriptures to back it up.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Their
on that stuff.
interpretation.
And so I think that there are a handful of things that we can adopt, and fortunately or unfortunately, they have to be personal. I wish there was a national campaign that you could lead, which would, bring us out of this season.
Sure.
I wish there was a Moses, whether religious or secular, that could get us out of this place that we're in as a nation.
That would lead to say, let's.
And I don't know that there is,
yeah.
But there are a lot of personal decisions that we can make that I think will help in some of this thing.
What are some of those for you?
Well, I love this thing that you brought up, which I think is so true, about community. So we were in a project in Tulsa a week or so ago. We met with the current mayor, outgoing mayor, and we met with a state senator. And both of them,
they were so interesting,
said similar things. And one, it started at this level of saying, here we are in the city government, and we have all these parties involved, and we find ways to work together. And I think that's been our experience even here in Bartlesville. We've watched our city government function that way. So we have people who, because of the community size we're in, that we know are of this political persuasion, and we have people who are this political persuasion. We have people who are gay working alongside people who are very, very conservative. And over these 3 decades, we've watched them work together, become friends, and really move our community forward and grow. And it's amazing to watch that, and so important. And then the moment some of those people have, quote, graduated onto larger government positions,
even
they go on state, those lines get darker. And then if you leave the state and you go to national, now there's a chasm. And so it seems like the further we get from community, from this grouping here, and spread that out into larger groups, then also the bigger the divide becomes. And the bigger you're required to have a divide. We've noticed that people keep trying to force the national narrative on our little community. Which doesn't fit, and so because
it's your next door neighbor.
You gotta out the person sitting in the pew next to you. You gotta be mad at the guy in the cubicle next to you, and so it doesn't fit. And so, but people keep trying to force that thing in there. So that part of it is, that you were saying about community. I think, man, that is, to me, that's the lifeblood of this whole thing. The more we can connect with each other, which is what we do with Dreamers Live and those experiences, and why I think people have embraced it the way they have, because when they walk into a room, they don't necessarily know who else is in the room with them.
Right.
And so they engage in conversation freely, and then we watch them connect.
Yeah.
And we know who they are. We know where they're coming from. We know their backgrounds. But community wins in that, and we see them walk away from that. And I think so that part is really important, I think.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I mean, aside from being knowledgeable enough to vote well, there's really not much that we can do on a national level.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or really even a state level.
Yeah.
I mean, the place that you can make a difference is in the city where you live and in the neighborhood where you are.
Right.
Aside from voting, anything else really is just noise.
Yeah.
Our Facebook posts and our outrage or whatever, that's not really helping anything. Once we vote, that's what we've got.
Yeah. Well, that was our experience, when we first started traveling for work, and we would go to other communities, and most of the time larger communities. So
which is very enlightening. I think people should travel if they can. I mean, seeing other ways of life.
Occasionally, we would do long-term projects, or we might be there for a while. You might say, "What would it be like to live here?" And we had opportunities to do that kind of stuff. And I can remember early on getting the feeling or the sense that we certainly could go. Like, for example, Chicago. We've done several projects there where it was long-term, so we might be there for 3 or 4 months. And that was probably the most engaging consideration for moving somewhere, which is say. And I remember doing a long-term project there, going, and then we had to come back home to work on a project for a long weekend, and we went back to Chicago. And I thought, the moment we got into Chicago, I was so relieved to be back there, and I also thought, no one knows that we left. No one knows that we're back.
Right.
No one cares. Yeah. But in the Ville, back home, Bartlesville, they absolutely know.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a place that you and I could leave a fingerprint. That's a place that you and I can impact. That's a place that now they do the same thing in larger cities, in little districts and little neighborhoods.
Absolutely,
and so,
in
They're
Chicago, all divided into neighborhoods or boroughs,
And so there are places to leave those fingerprints there too. But for us, it was much easier to leave a fingerprint here. Yeah. With the capital that we had built in these relationships. And so I think that part is really, really important in that.
I mean, I think if people are looking for ways to maybe avoid the national narrative, even being proactive against, rather than spending our time watching more news or being on Facebook, which is really a temptation for everybody, because there's something about it, sort of like, I don't know, like gossip. Like, you want to hear it. It's not good for you. It's like sugar, like too much sugar.
It's like a drama. It's like watching your stories.
It is.
Your soap opera stories. Like, oh my God, what happened next?
Well, it's like the same.
What did he say? What did she say? What did happen to that? Yeah.
It's like the same thing when you drive by a car wreck, and once you look and everyone is okay, you kind of want to see the damage. You're like, it's hideous, but I can't look away.
At least the car wreck is shorter.
Yeah. So I think for me, being intentional about trying to put some positive energy into other things makes me feel more hopeful about the world.
Yes.
Like, you can be listening to some national media on whatever persuasion, or be on social media, and just think, man, we're going to freaking hell in a handbasket, whatever that means. Like, all of a sudden you're like, well, I get that phrase now. Yeah. But then you go to your daughter's school, like, we're doing this week with some things, and you see those kids, and you see people helping each other out.
Yes.
I like to pack the backpacks with some, different things, and you're reminded of the good.
Yes.
That is there, and I think that's really the key.
Well, the more we can be around people, the less one-dimensional they become.
So true.
So we have, and this is not, again, about just political stuff. This is about the religious culture and the non-religious culture. This is about family. This is about all that stuff. The more you can be around someone to understand what they believe, where they're coming from, the better off we all are. It doesn't mean you have to be a convert to their party or their persuasion or whatever. It just means now you have understanding. Now you have insight. Now you're part of this thing. And so I think that part is really, really important. And I think maybe another element of this is, at least on the political side, we kind of need to start being honest with ourselves to some regard. I'm saying, look, this is the candidate the two candidates that are available in our current system. The two candidates that are available, I think this candidate will do the best.
Yeah.
Fine. But you can leave it at that. You don't have to become an apologist for that person. You don't have to justify what is legitimately bad behavior or bad people in that party.
Yeah.
And that's the part where we've kind of gotten in this weird zone. And this other part of that, I think, is, and this goes with siblings, and this goes with politics, and this goes with religion and whatever else, is, it's this other thing about being honest with ourselves is to not always believe that it's only the other person's or party's fault.
Yeah.
That everybody on our side is innocent and everybody on their side is guilty.
Yeah.
Because that's not the reality of it.
That's not what it's like to be human.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. I think maybe 40 years ago, you could have a different political philosophy than someone and still have respect for the other candidate and their views. You could I feel like you could think, well, I can see how you would think that. That is not what I believe will make change, but I can see how you would think that. But now it's like we're required to take up swords against the other side and those people and to hate everything, about them. And sadly, that can bleed over into our community and into our relationships with other people. It's so easy to label one or the other and not remember that is also a mom who loves her kids, or a dad who's doing his best. And I don't know.
Yeah, so before we start shouting down city council members or school board members or librarians or teachers or whatever, most people are really trying their best.
Yeah.
Most people, they may have a different political view than you or a different religious view than you or whatever, but most of us are taking whatever it is we believe, trying to apply that in some way and doing our best. Now, you don't have to agree with that philosophy or that religion or that political persuasion or whatever.
Yeah.
But we don't have to attack people personally about that, as if they had no emotions, as if they're bent on destroying you or your family or anything else.
Well, I mean, do you really think somebody who, for instance, runs for city council and volunteers in our city every Monday night of the year, not to mention the research, the work it takes to campaign, the research that it takes to understand the issues and read through the legal, forms and all of that, do you really think somebody is doing that, for evil, or because they don't care about our country or don't care, and they're doing that even if they are diametrically opposed to your religious, spiritual, political philosophy. They're doing that because they want to try and make a difference. They are giving of their time. I mean, especially in local offices. You're not going to get a book deal, for being a city councilor in a small Oklahoma town. Yeah. There's not going to be a ton of notoriety or even respect that comes from that. You're doing it to serve. Yeah. And we have to at the very least, give people who do that respect.
Yes.
I
agree.
And it's tough living in a political culture like we live in now and having a child that is watching how you respond.
Yeah.
We were always taught about, the sanctity of the office of president, no matter what you believe, having respect. I mean, we really were. Yeah. Respect for those in authority doesn't mean that you had to blindly trust things that were happening, but to respect their willingness to serve in that way. And it's difficult now because it's because kids ask you real pointed questions,
But then again, on this, on the answer to this question, and now what, I think that's an important element. You and I have a partnership as well as a marriage, which is really, really helpful to us. And part of that is trusting each other a little bit. And so when one of us, usually you, tries to go off the rails on something.
Okay, seriously, I am not the go off the railer about politics.
So I can get, as much as anybody else, I can get worked up about one thing or another.
Yeah, you can.
And it's been difficult lately, I think, probably because I have felt fatigued by a lot of these conversations.
You also serve on several boards, and you're involved in this. You're out there more than I am
sometimes
right now.
When you get tired, you end up showing things more than you wish you would have.
Sure.
And so, but you and I both keep each other, I don't don't know, for lack of a better term, accountable in some of that stuff, and saying, are you sure that's how you want to respond?
Right.
Are you sure this is a place you want to put your energy? Are you sure that you want to get into this? Are you sure this is your fight?
Yeah, right.
And because there are plenty of places to do good. There are plenty of places to take a stand. There are plenty, so you don't have to stand on them all. And is this stand you're about to take, is it something that's going to create lasting change or impact or whatever? So
perhaps we have to, find those people in our life that we can ask honestly.
We need that. You need someone who can.
Say, no.
You need someone who can kick you under the table. You need someone who can tug your sleeve,
It's like when we were writing,
or even Evangeline. We're sitting on that. We were outside. It happened to be kind of a nice morning last Sunday. Despite this heat
when you say kind of a nice morning, it was like only 99.
It was only at 9:30.
Right.
No, we were working outside, and I really, we both do our best to not be on our phones in front of Evangeline.
Too much.
Certainly not, on Facebook or the socials very much. And so she had gone in, she did something, and something came up in this conversation I was with when I was having a digital conversation with somebody. And then Evangeline said, "Dad, you're not going to say that, are you? You're not going to post that, are you?" My immediate response is, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're not here. You haven't read any of this. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what I'm dealing with here."
But it gave you pause.
And I thought,
okay, probably shouldn't do
so
this.
then, I berated her and sent her back to her room.
You were grounded for saying the truth.
But then, I did. I went back and I said, "Hey, I want you to know that I think that, you didn't really have context for what was happening there, but in a lot of ways you were right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to set an example for you that in so many cases, people are more important than being right.
Yes.
And keeping
those
a dialogue with somebody and keeping community with somebody and being able to continue to engage and not allowing a civil war in your own family, or civil war in your own community to happen is more important than them knowing that you are right.
That you know your stuff. That your research
I've researched this and I've got this and I hear my facts. And it's not debate team.
Yeah.
Debate team is fantastic, but I don't know how healthy it is for community. I don't know how healthy it is for family. I don't know how, all that kind of stuff. And so
maybe on the now what, one thing that we can apply is this idea of slowing down before we engage in those conversations, before we bring them up, and just waiting. I know, we're in such a culture of immediacy. Oh my gosh, I've been guilty of this. Like, we joke about Amazon. Obviously, we try to support locally as much as we can, but there's some conveniences, But I was noticing, I've done that this week because we're in back to school mode, and there's some things we couldn't find locally. So I get online, I'm like, 3-ring binder, like it's this immediacy. And Evangeline's like, "Ooh, I like those." She's all about the nail kits right now, or this nail kit. And so it was interesting because there was one that couldn't come in 2 days, and she was like, "What? I mean, but you're living in this culture, you had to wait." And we talked about the concept of delayed gratification, but the idea being that if we slow down and mull that over and handle things thoughtfully like you did by not posting that or not saying those things, let's just sit on that for a minute or even sleep on it better and then engage. We may have a better chance of not hurting relationships that we have with people or doing the wrong thing.
Another part of that is playing out the scenario. Okay, I respond to this. What happens next?
Yeah, great.
So I do this or I say that. What happens next? Do they come and bow down to my intellect? Do they come and they say, what, I'm right?
That's right.
You're right, and I'm so wrong. I'm so sorry.
Party
Is anybody changed in that communication?
Yeah.
Okay, if not, are any relationships lost in that communication?
Can be.
Has anything ended in that conversation?
Yeah.
So I have found there are, on the socials, I think there's 3 things that can really help us in that. One is exactly what you're saying, slow down. Maybe don't respond to that right now. Maybe sit on that for a minute and think about it before you do that. 2, in my case, for me personally, this works well. I will write a response, like I'm in notes on my phone.
Yeah.
I will write out my response, and I will write out my logic, and I will write out the whole thing, and then somehow that stops it from churning in my head. I've outsourced that. Otherwise, I will keep rehearsing that response. I'll keep going back through and saying, and then this, and then that, and you haven't considered it, and by the way, and then Supreme Court decision in 1773. You know.
So if you write it out, if you think about it,
somehow writing it out,
yeah,
gets it out. And it's there.
Yeah. Now for me, I have to talk it out. Yeah. I would have to say to you, "Here's what I'm thinking." Da 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 da. And
now,
like, great.
In 2 days, if I've answered those questions and I think, yeah, this might bring some clarity. Yes, this was still done in a respectful way, and it might help. So then, yeah, I can do that. But at least then it's out of my system. And now, I couldn't even tell you what the third thing was.
I'm sure it was good.
Yeah.
I think it's important to wait. It's like I heard this is really weird. I heard this the other day. You know, I don't like the term earworm because it's just gross. Yeah. But when you get a song stuck in your head, and you keep singing it over and over again. I heard that which makes me crazy. Because a lot of times it'll be like something I don't want stuck in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they say the way to fix that is to listen to that part and to actually figure out what finishes the part that's stuck in your head. Yes. It's like your mind is trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So for you, maybe writing that out, or for me, talking it out sort of completes that thought.
Yes.
And then you're able to decide if you should send or talk about or let it go.
Yeah.
But your logic is complete and you can say, okay, there you go. But, and now what? Either way, come November, my next door neighbors are still going to be there.
Well,
the people in my community are still going to be there, and we're still going to need to work together and love each other and help each other.
As you and I said, we have worked and profited and struggled under both Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
We have engaged in community under both Democrats and Republicans. We have held our beliefs and celebrated those beliefs under both Democrats and Republicans. And so, this thing about valuing people more than being right, I think, is important. And I have been mulling this phrase, for a couple weeks now that, we should value hearts more than we value votes.
Yeah.
The votes will be what they'll be, and that will be whatever it is, and you can you can abide by that all you want, but in the end, it's the value of people. It's the value of community. So, there's a whole thing of that, but it's really what we do in each other. It's what we hold to in that becomes more important. So, seeking hearts over seeking votes. If that's really the change you want.
Yeah.
So. The whole thing, I find this interesting that, over the last 3 decades, the number of abortions have gone down. And then the Supreme Court reverses Roe v. Wade,
right.
And there's an actual increase in abortions.
It's interesting.
We have every election cycle, there's tons of money that get put into campaigns from the NRA and other groups like that about weapons and this, that, and the other, and about how they're going to come and take your guns. Now, no guns have ever been taken, but every time a Democrat is elected to office, gun sales go up.
That's interesting.
I say all that to say that while legislation is important, it's hearts that change things.
Yeah.
It wasn't legislation that led to fewer abortions.
Right.
It was education, it was heart changes, it was all that kind of stuff. But fear drives things the other way.
Yeah.
What we have seen is that radical right will produce radical left.
Yes.
Radical left will produce radical right, and that's where we are.
So
that's why we're all here justifying ridiculous stuff from our party because suddenly we're required to. But it's hearts that matter. It's hearts that make a change.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly important. So this thing about community and about engaging people in community, that's what we have. And,
Yeah.
Your dad said,
Have good to do.
your dad came up with this thing, I don't know, a couple of years ago as a resolution. He said, I've just resolved to not give my energy to anything I cannot control.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yes, I'll stay informed and I will vote,
Right.
but I cannot impact, geopolitics.
Yeah.
I cannot, there's only so much I can do in national politics.
Yeah.
But I can put a fingerprint here.
Yeah.
And my fingerprint here is in living with people and not forcing my view on another people group. And that's where we are. I think that's the challenge with where we are right now, is that literally one half of the country believes this.
Yeah.
And just as adamantly, the other half of the country believes that.
Yeah. They're just as scared of you as you are of them.
Exactly. And that's really the truth of it.
For the most part, in both parties, there are probably equal amount of people that are patriotic, that love our country, that care about their family and others. They see how to get to that differently.
Yes.
But for the most part, we all want those same things. And it's fear that keeps us lashing out toward other people.
Yeah.
So I feel like the more that we can make people feel secure and loved just in our daily life, the more trust that we have with one another.
Yes.
That's the good we can do. That's the only now what that we have.
And now what is engage your neighbor? Now what is have dinner with somebody that doesn't agree with you? Now what is continue to grow closer, or we can lose this. Or this amazing thing, this precious thing as a nation. And it can be lost, but it won't be lost over policy. It'll be lost over people.
Yes.
And so it will also be rescued by people. It won't be rescued by legislation or legislators or the executive branch or even the Supreme Court. It will be saved and rescued by people. It will be lost by people. And so it's on us to engage each other, because the nation is worth fighting for. What we have is like a marriage. I mean, it's yes, there are very difficult times that happen in a marriage, not ours, but for other people.
Why are you looking at me?
That's what I said. And so, if that marriage is something worth holding on to, then you find ways to do that. You find ways to rescue. You find ways to fall back in love. You find the things you can agree on.
Yeah.
You find ways to respond kinder and smarter and gentler.
Often it's kindness and love and loving kindness, which is a great word that will keep something like that together.
Yes.
And one thing that I was taught growing up, and I hope that we're doing a good job with this with our daughter, was to believe the best about people.
Yes.
And so when you look and you just can't understand how somebody would believe that, and we all have those things, look at their life, learn a little bit about how they grew up or what they may have suffered. Put yourself in their shoes for a minute, honestly, and say, I can see how based on those life experiences you would come to this.
Yes.
And then it takes it out of that, political division and into, I don't agree with you, but I can see. And if I'm believing the best about that person, even on the other side of the political spectrum, I'm going to believe that they do care about our country. They see how to make it better differently than I do. I'm going to see that they do care about their family, that they do care about their community, and that they're trying their best.
Yes.
And if we believed that about one another for the most part, then now what would look a little better than it is now? I hope.
Well, there you have it, friends. The and now what is
Deep thoughts.
Now on you.
Yeah.
That's the now what. So we're so thrilled that you get to have this conversation and that we get to have this conversation with you. We're still available for doing Dreamers Live with you. We'll be starting up our fall season very soon. We're excited about that. But if you would like us to bring dreamers to your group or community or beer group or Bible study or both, if you live in a different town or whatever, just let us know. We're happy to do that. We want to do Dreamers Live with you and all that kind of stuff. And we want to keep on keeping on. So we're so grateful that we can be back with you, and thanks for having us. And as we would say, God bless you and God bless America. And good night.
All of the Americans.
And we'll see you
and
next
the
episode.
world.
Peace out.
All right.